maybe I just want a simple life. To spend my mornings drinking coffee with each sunrise. To live gently alongside animals of every shape and size. To grow and prepare nourishing food with my own two hands. And to watch how the changing seasons shape the land.
Welcome to the Simple Life Reality Check Edition. Today we're talking about a TikTok trend that's taking over the internet faster than a sourdough starter during quarantine. The simple life aesthetic, peaceful mornings, freshly baked cakes, cozy sweaters, misty fields, and quiet, gentle living. It's the whole life in a cottage, away from the hustle and bustle vibe. And it looks absolutely dreamy. But as they say, looks can be deceiving.
Ever since I can remember, I've wanted to live in a tiny, cozy woodland cottage, work in my garden, be with my rescued animals, and live a carefree, simple life. Unfortunately, getting to the simple life just isn't that simple. The housing market is ridiculously expensive, and even tiny houses are selling for more than $100,000 in my area.
People are making videos that make it look like life can be as simple as waking up, baking bread, cuddling with chickens, and filming the whole thing in beautiful lighting, of course. You could almost taste the simplicity if it weren't so costly. That simplicity is often only for the wealthy. Buying a cottage, starting a farm, and living without a constant worry of bills is a dream, but it's a dream that only some can afford. It's a simple life aesthetic, but if we dig a little deeper, that life isn't exactly simple for most of us. Realistically, having a cottage and a little farm is a full-time job in itself.
Follow along with me for my evening routine at my farm with 30 animals.
You ready to eat?
First, I start by putting our barn cats up for the night to keep them safe from predators. Once the cats are put away, I'm able to let my chickens out to free range for a few hours. I do this in the morning and in the evening when the cats aren't out. Then it's time to put the pigs inside their pens and give them dinner. They're usually grazing in the pasture during the day. There's Nala. Then it's time to head over to the tiny house village and let the little dogs out to run for a little while. Once everyone's had their pee break, I take them back inside the tiny house and give them dinner, and then it's time to let Richard out for his walk. And then last but not least, it was time to let the cats in the tiny house out onto their catio for dinner.
Buying land, expensive. Setting up a farm, very expensive.
To buy 1 square metre of land in Paddington in Sydney, this big, it'd cost you $25,000, which is kind of like buying a brand new Kia Rio. If it were in Albert Park in Melbourne, it'd be $14,000. And as always, it is a pretty good way to think about real estate because it can get completely out of control. This place in Sydney sold for $1.5 million this week, and it's only on 25 square metres in total. That means it was $60,000 per square metre. And a reminder, that is this much land.
Let's face it, for most people, the simple life means hustling in the morning, grabbing a quick breakfast, and rushing off to work just to keep up with the bills, rent, and the basic cost of living. And here is where things get interesting. The simple life aesthetic overlaps with another big trend, the soft life. People quitting the grind, ditching stress, and living with ease.
I don't know who needs to hear this, but that whole strong black woman narrative, it doesn't apply to me. I live a soft life.
It's all about valuing peace, rejecting hustle culture, and hey, who wouldn't want that? Don't we all want to relax on the beach or take a day off whenever we please? But the only reason some people can live like that is because they can afford to live this way. Whether it's through family's money, some financial windfall, a hustle that paid off, the source isn't as important as the point. It's a life of privilege.
So what is your dream job? To be honest, I don't really dream about working. I don't have dream job, no. But I have dream holidays. I can tell you more on this one.
And that brings us to a core issue. We're living in a world where teachers, doctors, nurses, construction workers, police officers, cleaners, and so many others are keeping everything running. Society depends on these roles, but they're not exactly the ones living the soft or simple life. Just imagine a world where we didn't have people filling these roles. It wouldn't be so simple anymore. And the saddest part is that so many people in these essential jobs are exhausted and underappreciated.
I didn't know what I was signing up for. And becoming a doctor shouldn't break your spirit, you know? You should be able to feel like a person and do this job. But it seems like the system believes that they have to break you in order for you to do this job properly. And I don't think that's true. And I know that I'm privileged to be here and thankful to be here. And maybe eventually it will feel worth it. But right now it doesn't. And when I was in undergrad and I was pre-med and I was applying to medical school, so many doctors told me, don't become a doctor. But you can't tell an ambitious first-generation college student to not go after their dreams. Like, that's not... I was like, whatever. And now I'm like, I get it.
People who are often overworked and stretched to their limits are told they are entitled if they ask for a better work-life balance or higher pay. If someone requests a higher salary so they can afford basic necessities, they are told they are spoiled. No wonder people romanticize simple living when actual simple living has become so rare, it's almost like a fantasy.
The year before last, I was really slightly overworked and very tired, and I was working, I was dehydrated, I hadn't had any water to drink, and I fainted. I collapsed out of my chair and I fell forward out of my chair and broke my nose. And I woke up on my own kitchen floor. I was like covered in blood. It was very dramatic, very upsetting. And one of my first thoughts was like, oh, I'll be able to write about that now. Yeah, because I've never collapsed out of a chair before and broken my nose. So now that it's happened, I can write about it, because it would be difficult for me to write about something that physically dramatic if it had never happened.
And that is often why people are longing so much for this dream of simplicity. For many, the soft life isn't only an aesthetic, it's an escape. And here's where it gets really ironic.
When I say soft life, this is what I mean. So come spend a weekend in the countryside with me. I woke up super early, had the most delish breakfast in bed, and then I had a nice long bath. And honestly, it was just the most stunning morning. And in true full fashion, I spent the morning binge watching Gossip Girl and Gilmore Girls. And then I got ready super quickly because I wanted to take advantage of the weather and go for a bike ride, which was a perfect excuse to wear my new Uggs. So this is actually my third time at Cove Park, and the reason I keep coming back is because it's actually just so stunning here. I haven't been on a bike in God knows how long, so it was just perfect. Then we headed back, I got changed and ready, because one thing about me is if there's a horse, I'm absolutely getting on it. So I hopped on the golf buggy all the way down to the stable. And do you know what I truly want in life? Let me tell you guys what I truly want in life. I want a big ass apartment in London, and then I want a gorgeous house in the middle of nowhere, a couple of horses, a couple of sheep, a couple of goats, a couple of chickens. Basically that.
A lot of soft life we see online isn't simple at all. It's a luxury. It's the opposite of simple living. Living the soft life means having a MacBook, a kitchen that looks like it belongs in a magazine, and a view that's worth more than most people's annual rent. That version of soft life isn't about making do with less, it's about owning more, only with less work. For example, you see people posting about working 20 hours a week and somehow still making 6 figures, or people being taken care of by their spouses and living stress-free. And many soft life influencers are not exactly downsizing.
If your goal was to eat, you cannot complain about having a lot on your plate. A lot of women claimed that they wanted the soft life. You want to be a soft girly. I get it. But most of you do not want to do what it takes to get to that point. When the girls in tech, law, finance, and healthcare got on here and showed you guys what living a soft life looked like, you were so in love. That's exactly the life that you wanted. But I can bet majority of you are not willing to put in the work that it takes to get to that point. Law school, med school, nursing school, grad school, these are not easy tasks. But you go through that hard time so that on the other side, you can have a much easier life.
So when people say nobody wants to work anymore, I can't help but laugh, because who actually wants to work? Nobody has ever wanted to work just for the sake of working. People work because they have bills to pay, groceries to buy, families to support. They work because historically, working has been a way to make those things possible. Someone said said, would you flip burgers for $350K a year?
A brief history of nobody wants to work anymore. 2024, what has happened to the work ethic in America? Nobody wants to work anymore. 2006, I can't believe the bad luck I've had. Nobody wants to work anymore. 1999, nobody wants to work anymore, Cecil said. They all want to work in front of a computer and make lots of money. 1981, I hired 2 boys to clear the rocks off the land last week, but they just fooled around. They didn't want to work. Nobody wants to work anymore. 1979, nobody wants to work anymore. Disgusted businessman. 1952, I heard somebody say the other day that everybody is getting too darn lazy and nobody wants to work anymore. That's the truth if I ever heard it. 1937. Peach orchardists in York and Adams counties are complaining that nobody wants to work anymore. 1922. The manufacturer and businessmen say it is because nobody wants to work anymore. 1916. The reason for food scarcity is that nobody wants to work as hard as they used to. 1905. Labor is scarce, high, and very unreliable. None want to work for wages. 1894. With all the mines of the country shut down by strikers, what will the poor editor do for coal next winter? It is becoming apparent that nobody wants to work these hard times.
People are willing to work. It's just that they want to be able to work and be compensated for it in a way that they can afford things they want. And if you can't afford a home, groceries, or even a hint of that so-called slow life, well, the whole idea of work starts to feel pretty pointless. The simple life aesthetic and the slow life trend both speak to a real need. People want to slow down, to have a little peace, to know they're more than just a cog in a wheel. But most people don't have the luxury of soft life or all the time to slow down. For the majority, simple living has to be, well, simple, which means making ends meet, saving where they can, and getting by.